Hey, 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 welcome. Welcome back to Purpose for Productivity. I'm so excited to have you here. This is another night of Iron Sharpens Iron, our annual Black History Month summit. And we have a young lady with us tonight who has never been with you. You will hear all about her and what she does and what she brings to this bivocational enterprise, professional people. She is a bivocational professional and she has a wealth of knowledge. For those who don't know, she's also a systems and strategy expert. She works with coaches, helping them turn crickets into cash, as I've heard her say so many times. As an entrepreneur, I am excited to be with you this evening. Get your questions in early. Listen to me. Get your questions in early. Do not delay. She is super qualified to answer your questions, and she will certainly share some wealth of knowledge with you and systems and strategies for you to be successful as a bivocational professional. We are all in this transition where we're transitioning from one profession to another. And now we have to know how to do that successfully and still keep all of the balls juggling in the air without losing our mind. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are in the chat, the 6 of you who have joined and those who will comment, I would love for you to put your hands together and welcome to the stage Miss Tanya Smith from Stream Like a Boss. Miss Tanya, so glad to have you. I'm
I
so
am so
excited.
glad to be here with you.
I I I'm giddy. I,
No, no, no.
I'm
It's all
literally
me.
giddy right now. For
I'm just
those
thrilled I
who
get to be in your space, Florence. I'm excited about that.
well, thank you so much. This, I when I was thinking about who to have come share with the community this year, as you know, this is the third year of doing Black History Month celebration. I always want to highlight and spotlight and be a bridge. I was told the very first year, my calling is to be a bridge. And so to be that bridge to continue this work that we're doing as bivocational professionals. And when I say that, many of us have corporate or public service roles but we have another thing, whether it's ministry, whether it's small business, and then we have families in our lives. And I thought Tanya would be perfect because that is the world she lives in and
Yeah.
walks in, and you have some extra that many of us don't have to deal with in your life. And so it was just going to be perfect to have you come and talk about what it is you do and how to help us do it effectively the same way you do and make, as we're making this transition. So for those who don't know you, I would love for you to share, who is Tanya? What's your origin story? What is it you do and how did you get started with all of this?
Okay. So I can only do that in 5 minutes versus a year worth of description. So here's the thing. Yes, my name is Tanya Smith, and I often get the default Tanya. So if you make the mistake of saying Tanya, please just know that I ignore that. It's all good. Um, I am from a lot of different places. I literally just had a conversation last night on a podcast where I was talking about my origin story, if you will, like my real origin story. We just kind of alluded to that a few minutes ago, Florence, before we started recording. And the reality of where I come from is that I came from a real hodgepodge of places and locations. So from a personal standpoint, there's a lot more depth, but I will share the Cliff's Notes version and tell you where I am today. I am a video marketing strategist. My primary focus is on live stream marketing. So I work with a lot of coaches and consultants and other types of service providers to help them to really find their voice with video, to leverage video content in such a way that you are showing yourself to be the professional that you truly are. And so I have fallen in love with that space, but it's not where I started. And being the introvert that I am, I was the person that was saying, don't ever put me on camera. Like, I don't want to be on video. When I started coaching almost 20 years ago, actually, it's been 20 years now. When I started coaching, doing business coaching, it was, as Florence said, the whole bivocational thing. I started in resume writing, career coaching, and in spaces that I really just thought I was supposed to be in because my corporate background has been in human resources. And so, honestly, for 33 years, I have been in a space in corporate America while juggling the business for 20 of those 33 years. And when I initially started, I was working with people in a space that I just didn't feel I loved. I didn't want to write resumes or do career coaching or any of that. What I was finding is that people were coming to me asking me about the technical aspects of how are you running this business and you've got kids and your husband's overseas and you're doing this corporate thing. How are you doing this successfully? And so I know tonight we're going to talk about systems and strategies. And honestly, it's because of the systems that I've been able to do everything successfully. Now, my definition of success may look different than yours, but what I will say is that I'm still here. And when you have a sustainable business and when you have the opportunity to do things that you love to do in all of the spaces, that to me feels like success. I know that there's a monetary value people tend to attach, Florence, but for me, it feels good that I'm able to operate in all of those spaces in a healthy way with healthy boundaries and in a way where I still feel fulfilled every day.
Ooh, healthy boundaries. We could talk about that for a long time. We could literally talk about healthy boundaries for the rest of the show because so many of us, and I'm going to dare say so many of us women, we're not always successful at setting clear, healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
We serve everybody else and we have
Hmm.
nothing left for ourselves. However, I've learned to serve from the overflow and not from the cup. And you've been
Absolutely.
talking about that
Hmm.
recently on your shows about setting boundaries and knowing, not only knowing but putting in place what works in your life because we're all different. We have different needs. We have different lifestyles. You know, you
Yes.
just said you have children. I believe you have fur babies as well.
I do.
That's a whole thing, right?
That's a
That is
whole
a
issue.
whole thing. You have fur babies. You have a spouse who is often out of an internet international
Yeah.
travel. You
Hmm.
you have like a lot of boxes to tick off and
Elderly
pay attention.
parent. Yeah.
And elderly
Yeah. All
parents,
of the
yeah.
things. Hmm.
So you're talking to a person who works in healthcare. So
So then you
that is a
know.
world in and of itself.
Hmm.
Keeping track of the appointments and what to do when and at what time. That you need like that could take your whole life right there.
It
Just
can.
saying. Not that I know anything about that. I just deal with, patients and their families who are constantly talking about how what a struggle it is to deal with that.
Yes.
But I'm not gonna belabor. We do have some folk who are with us, and so guys, I want to let Tanya know who is here, so that she's not just talking to me, not just talking to me, she's talking to other people. So I want to say hello to a few people who have joined us. Of course, we have Frank Jackson, who happens to be our community manager and my best friend in the world. And glad that you're here and serving. He also is one of our moderators. And I think you know this young man, Mr. James Hicks. No
Yeah.
heckling today, James Hicks.
Hicks
Behave
in the house.
yourself. No heckling allowed. No heckling. When we have Inanea, who is one of our moderators, fabulous young lady uh, who works with us and supports the channel and all that we're doing here. You may know this young lady, Ravens Talk with Yolanda. Yolanda B is here in the building with us this evening. Hello, hello. Glad to have you here with us. We also have another moderator, the emotional CEO, who also builds all the graphics and background and all that stuff because I don't have a graphic bone in my body. Let me just tell you. I came from IT infrastructure. I don't
Yeah,
have that whole visual thing.
that's
Like,
not the
just give me
creative
words.
side.
Yeah, not no, not that. I'm creative, but creative in a very
In a different
different
way.
way.
That's
You
right.
know, it's not, and it's not that I'm not creative. I'm very, very
Mhm.
creative. I'm just
Mhm.
creative differently than what
Yes.
some may consider being creative. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's a whole vibe. I do have questions. I do want to remind everyone, get your questions in, get your questions in. You know I will start flicking lights on you. And do not come asking me questions later when you should have been asking the expert, this young lady right here. You should have been asking her because she's going to answer your questions. But I got questions. I got
All right.
questions. And so I'm going to start, and then you can take this. Let me just say this for the community. I have asked Tanya, take this where she knows to take it, um, to help us, to bring you value. Um, and so I'm going to start with something that I learned a long time ago being in IT healthcare. And that is you have to measure stuff, but what you measure is what you pay attention to.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to just ask you before we get into the meat and potatoes of various frameworks that you've designed and created, because you got them. Whew, and I do pay attention. But how do you measure success of a system or a workflow? Like when you start thinking about, I've got to put a workflow in place or a framework in place for my clients, your clients, what is your measure of success, whether it's doing what you expected to do and achieving what you expected to achieve?
Yeah, it depends on the system, right? So when I think about this question, I'm thinking in terms of something that you've already said that I say a lot, which is everyone's goal will be different according to their personal filters, their experiences, what they see as success. And so one of the things that I do, I often offer this for people who are like, I don't know if I fit in one of the boxes of your programs and packages and all of that stuff. So I will say, okay, let's take a look at, I have this structured, it's not really structured, it's a loosely structured plan that I can offer them for one-on-one coaching. And when I do this, I say to them, okay, when we're talking about what success looks like for you, which of these areas would you want to tackle first?
Mm, wow.
Because there's multiple places where you literally could land. And when I think about all the potential spaces that you could be playing in, there really are about 12 different support systems
Mm,
that someone might want to focus on. So let me give you some examples. And specifically because I work with service businesses mostly, I'm going to talk from that angle versus if you're selling a product, because there's some slight differences there. But my question typically is going to be, do you want to be better at managing how you put yourself in a space where your podcast, if you're doing a video podcast, where that can run on autopilot? Or would you really want to take a closer look at how well you're tracking when you have client conversions because of the work that you're doing? Or could it be, what if you got more time back in your day because you learned how to outsource effectively to the people who need to do some of the things that you feel like you got to do right now, but you really
mm.
shouldn't be doing because they're not your not your gift, right? So I
Not your
mean,
ministry.
Okay, it's not your ministry. This is not you. This is not for you. So when I'm looking at metrics with them, I'm going to ask them, first of all, what's the goal? Like, what's the end game and what's going to give you the most joy at the end of the time that we work together? What will bring you joy? And if what we put together is not something that's going to help them to feel joy and to feel excited about what they're doing, that's probably not where we need to start.
Wow.
Um, if I were
Wow.
talking from a video or content perspective, I'm going to be looking at specific things like, okay, well, how long are people staying on my live stream or my video podcast? What's the retention? Um, how many people are actually clicking through if I did a call to action that's telling them to go to a specific place, like to either go sign up on an email list to get access to something free or to sign up to be a part of a course. So, for instance, the stream that I'm going to be doing later this week, is going to be focused on helping to drive people into a new course that I have coming up. If I'm looking at my numbers and my numbers don't look like what I wanted them to look, then I'm probably needing to make some tweaks and some adjustments. But I guess the point is your metrics are going to depend on what the ultimate goal is in the first place.
So start at the end.
Yeah.
Start at the
Reverse
end where you want.
engineer.
And I've heard you talk about this reverse engineering, starting where you want what the end goal is and working your way back. Do you want to delve into what that looks like? And let's just say you're a bivocational and you're a service provider, maybe you're a coach or you're providing courses. What could that walk back look like? You know, your 90-day content plan,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
That you have and that you teach and you coach on.
Mm-hmm.
What could that look like for a person? Because sometimes we get lost in like, what does we hear it, but
Mm-hmm.
then we can't actually visualize what it looks like for us.
So that is a very specific end game. So if people are actually looking and I'm going to use the example of the 90-day plan that I use, but it's based on, for me, live streaming, so videos. So we'll talk from that perspective. But for those of you who are listening and watching, I want you to replace that in your mind with whatever it is that you create. Okay. But it is specific to content creation. I don't believe in creating content just for purposes of creating content, just for sake of putting it out there. So I'm not throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what's going to stick. What I am
Mhm.
doing is I'm intentional and purposeful. And so when Florence mentions this 90-day program, one of the things that I teach my clients is to reverse engineer your success. So we start with a series of prompts, and I use a lot of AI, as most people do these days, I guess. But I don't use it in such a way that it becomes a crutch. It is used as an assistant to what I already know, right? What I know is that there's a specific monetary goal. So what I usually will do is I will start with people and say, okay, for the next 6 months, what's your ideal monetary income? Like, what's the revenue you want to bring in? And if we're saying, I want to bring in $5,000 every month for the next 6 months, okay. Well, then we need to figure out what you're going to be selling and the numbers of people that need to sign up for that thing in order for you to achieve the $5,000 a month. Once we've looked at those numbers of the count of people and the number of offers that they want to put out into the world, then we backtrack even further and say, okay, now what kind of content is going to drive people to these offers? And so without actually giving you or showing you the whole entire map, I'm kind of walking you through this. And if anybody has questions, feel free to stop me and ask. But that content might be your videos. And for me, that's what it is. So the 90-day plan for me is working backwards from, here's the revenue I want to generate for this 90-day period. Here are the offers that I plan on putting forward. Here's the number of people that I need to enroll in order to achieve that goal. And here are the videos, the live streams that I'm going to do each week that are driving people to a specific aspect of what I'm going to be sharing in the offer. And for most of the time, for me, it's the offer will be a course or a program. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit easier when you're thinking in terms of that, because that course or the program is going to be like, an advanced version of what you're teaching in those smaller videos. But do you see how that works backwards? So we're reverse engineering and saying, if this is what I want to achieve, I got to start over here. And everything that I do is going to be it's going to be tied to that end game. And so that even means when you sit down and you do your video podcast or your audio podcast or whatever it is you're doing, you're also creating the structure of that stream or that video, keeping in mind that you're going to carve those up into smaller bites, and those become teaser social media posts. Those become reels and shorts and TikTok clips, all still with the purpose of driving people to the offer for that month. Because if you're just creating content because it's in your head and you think, hey, I think people will love this, but you have no end game, what happens is people don't know what to do with that. I know this from experience because I had somebody come to me and say, I just love your content. It's great, but I'm not really sure where to go next. And they want to do more with you. They want to invest in an experience with you, but you haven't given them anything to go to next. So you've got to got to point them in the direction where you want them to go and also where they want to be. The only way you can do that is if you are intentional and strategic, and if you just sit down and think it through first before hopping on camera saying, hey, I'm going to do my video today. See my cup? It's my Florence
Be
cup.
on purpose. Be on purpose.
I'm just
Make a
saying.
decision and be on purpose. Have and be intentional. It's what I'm hearing you say. Don't be random.
Yeah.
Just look.
Now, let me say
Tora's over
something
here
though.
misbehaving. She's talking about when you can't say ouch, I'm just gonna say amen.
Say amen.
I'm just gonna say amen.
Let me give a quick caveat to that. Okay, because I don't want you to if for those of you who are believers, and I'm not sure if everyone is, but I am. If you're a believer, you also don't want to quench the Holy Spirit. So I'm not telling you don't allow yourself to speak. When you have the feeling, when the Spirit is hitting you a certain way, you might end up shifting what you were going to say. And I have done that too. But at the same time, I believe that there is structure in faith, right? There is
Not a
structure, there are
God of
rules.
confusion and disorder.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna try.
Okay.
Tanya, warning. They do tell me to stop preaching sometimes,
Okay.
so it's all good. It
Okay.
is all good. Be who you are. Just be who you are. You don't have to hold back. They'll be fine. They're
Yeah.
looking
I
for it.
mean,
And Tora cannot be driving her little red car up the driveway tonight. Just saying.
uh-oh.
Lady, pay attention. But that reverse engineering, starting with the end, spoke to me even, and you don't know this because I've never shared it with you. Even planning this year's February, it was like, what is the end goal? And I worked my way back from that. But because you're one of the people that I listen to and study, so gang, tip here, somebody can be coaching you without knowing that they're coaching you. Just be aware of that. Tora is misbehaving already.
What's Tora saying? Let me look. I need to open these.
She over here misbehaving.
Oh, I see.
just come on, don't even send me a cease and desist because I'm telling you right now, I'm using that. There is structure in faith. She too much, but I love it. I love it. And so I'm sharing this with you because we've literally never had this conversation. So y'all, you
No.
all, she's hearing for the first time what I'm sharing with you all. I've never shared this with her. But you can be coached from people who don't know that they're coaching you, and you can learn lessons from the right people who have the spirit that is the spirit that aligns with your spirit. Be very intentional about that.
Mhm.
Everything that sound good ain't good. Everything, the whole saying, everything that glitters is not gold. So, um, just sidebar, just saying. And I think I did share you a lot. I'm watching all the time. I just don't always comment.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so you're constantly juggling with all of these roles that you have in your life, and you're constantly juggling. Share with the community how you go about prioritizing what happens when, whether it's
Mm.
in your business, whether it's in your family, whether it's with the fur babies, your personal health. How do you go about, as a business owner, prioritizing what what you tackle when? I know you have a
From
framework for that.
Yeah, yeah, I do. Um,
Spill the beans, young lady, spill the beans.
well, look, I'm old school. S I really am old school. So when it comes to prioritization, the thing, first of all, for me is what is it that's going to give me the most optimal end result, right? First of all, there's an order to things, as I mentioned already. So you still go with faith, family, and then everything else, right? So faith, family, and everything else. So when it comes to any type of life issue or challenge that comes up, that's always going to be priority for me. It's never going to be secondary. Family is always going to be priority. When it comes to other things, when it comes to the business, the old school part of me is the person who says, okay, which of these things on my list of 20 things that needs to be done today, if I did the top three, which of those top three would give me the biggest bang for my time, like the biggest return on investment of time? Because if I am spending time on things that really, like procrastinating by doing little bitty things that really have no impact whatsoever on the bottom line, they're not creating profit, they're not aligned with purpose, and they're not a part of my prayer life, then they probably need to go to the bottom of the list. So
Mm.
I usually sit
Woo!
down if I
That's a
have a
word.
list.
That is a
if I
word right there.
I'm assigning everything. You know, the old school, the Franklin Covey with the A, B, C, and then the one, two, three. Yeah, I usually have those type of buckets, and it's based on what I just said, right? So it needs to be doing something in those spaces, and if it's not, then it's probably going to be put aside for a time when I have a little bit more leisure, which is rare. um, but it's okay that that thing gets put off because it's not fulfilling any of those buckets.
Wow. We have a question she thought that you may have answered, but I want to ask this anyway. With running a full time ministry, working a full time overtime job, I hear you.
Yeah.
Managing
Hmm.
a solo marketing business, let me bring this back. How can this type of organization uh, uh, take place to set all the pieces in place? And I think you just answered it, but I wanted you to see this,
Yeah.
because this is exactly the person, right? That in this case is more than two; it's three.
Mhm,
And I have that
mhm,
same scenario where you're working in you're doing volunteer service, you're working in ministry, you have a corporate or public service job, and you've got a small business, all the
mhm.
things.
Uh-oh, bless you.
Excuse me. I have no idea what's happening. You know, just setting those priorities.
Yeah, it really is about setting the priorities first for you. So, what I just shared about me may look a little different for you, Tora. And the most important thing is to sit down and really ask yourself, are all of these things fulfilling? Are all of these things meeting the purpose that I know I'm designed to, put out into the world? Are all of these things fitting into what I believe? Are they aligned with my values and with my faith? Because there's going to be some things I suspect out of all of those things that may need to take a back seat, and you just haven't given yourself the permission and the grace to give them the back seat. Everything can't fit in the front. Think about that. If you're driving a car and you're trying to get to a destination, everything can't fit in the front with you. You're driving the
Exactly.
car, there's a limited space in the front seat. Some other stuff has to fit in the back. So what's that going to be for you? And I can't give you the black and white answer because I don't know your life and what you do. But I would suggest sitting down and taking an inventory of what goes in the front seat right now. Because there may be something out of all of the things that you're doing that should be taking a back seat, but you're too busy trying to stuff it all in the front, which can cause an accident.
You
So,
saw me throw my hands up, right?
yeah.
Trying to stuff it all in the front seat.
She said it has to be limping out here in braces. I'm not
Lemon.
trying to put you in braces. I'm not trying to do that to you. I'm not trying to put bandages on you. I'm just saying, I'm trying to be helpful and say because I'm there too with you, and I feel at times that I know I'm doing the most, and you feel like, well, but I got to do all these things. No, you don't, and you can't do them all effectively. And when you
Wow.
tell yourself the truth and you're honest with yourself that I really can't do all of these things effectively, then you get to sit down and ask the question, what can I do? What belongs in the front seat in this moment? And it may shift. Maybe today it's one thing, and then tomorrow you can put that thing in the back seat and another thing shows up in the front seat with you. But you get to choose. And that's the one thing I want you to remember is you always have a choice. And the person with the most options always wins. Okay? That's something I learned when I was studying neuro-linguistic programming. One of the principles is the person with the most choices, the most options is the winner. So give yourself options and remember that you're driving. She stole my little red.
You had to see that.
Well,
She done drove my little red and drove it up my own driveway.
hey.
Right, Tora? She done just got both of us. Drove it all the way up the driveway. Tooted the horn, backed up, and tooted the horn again. One of your favorite, well, one of my favorite, not your favorite, one of my favorite frameworks, because let me just tell y'all, Tanya has frameworks for just about everything. And she has tools that she uses, and there are some that I'm trying to learn.
Mhm.
And I've been in IT for a very long time. Um, but you use this ABCD
Mm,
framework when you are talking about making sure that what you're communicating and how you're communicating it to your intended audience. Could
mhm.
you just kind of share, well, not kind of, would you share with this community what that framework is and really the genesis of it, how you came to really lean into using that framework with your clients in your own business? This is iron sharpens iron. So I want the business owners to walk away with concrete things and activities and frameworks that they can apply in their own business. And this one I
So
think is genius. Just saying.
I let me give you the secret. The secret is I need easy recall. That's the secret. This is why I come up with all the frameworks, Florence. The real deal is
Easy real
I'm like,
call.
I need to remember. Right? So the ABCD came about because I was looking at ways to help drive home to my clients what it meant to create content at different parts of the sales process. Because every piece of content that you have has a purpose and an intention, right? And every piece of content is going to meet people where they are, or it should. So, whatever you're creating when it comes to your whole CMS, your content management system, should be around this framework. So, the A is awareness. How are you ensuring that people are aware of you in the first place? And I'm going to give you examples that fall within the video space because that's where I am. But again, this is going to look different for you depending on how and why you're creating content. So, whatever your niche may be and the people that you're serving, it may look a little different. But the A is awareness building because some people don't know you. Believe it or not, they've never seen you before online. They don't know anything about you, yet they may run into content that you have created and put out into the world. So when you're thinking about video, that might look like TikTok shorts, um, quick hitter pieces of content, social media posts. It could be any of those type of things. And so those things are helping people to be aware of you. And to a perfect example, when you look on YouTube, most people won't find your long form content that easily, but they will potentially. People who don't know you or not following you, who are not subscribed to you, will more than likely see your shorts before they ever see your long form content. So your shorts are like the teaser bites, right? And so those are the awareness. Your social media posts that somehow get put in front of somebody that you never knew because Instagram has changed its algorithm again, right? Awareness content. The next step is B, which is bonding. So, how are you creating content that allows people who now know who you are? So, when they come to my live stream on Thursday nights, it's probably because they saw something else that led them to come to the stream and to subscribe. Now they're on my YouTube channel and they're part of my community. And so now we're bonding. And so I'm acknowledging them in the stream and I'm saying, hey, what's up? And I'm giving them hashtags to put into the chat. And I'm saying, it's so good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. You know, there's this guy that's called Carlos Tacos. Florence, you might have seen he comes he comes in every now and
Yes.
then.
Yep.
And the only reason why he comes is because he wants free promotion. He wants free pub, which I'm totally good with because we just kind of banter back and forth. I'm like, here you go again, trying to, do a commercial in my chat. Right? But it's funny and
Not
it's
doing a
fun.
commercial yet, and you do.
Yes. But I love him and I don't mind it at all, but we're bonding, right? So there are people that show up that I may have never have met before in my life and I may never ever meet them in person, but we have bonded. And so the bonding is about you creating this experience with people where they feel like they know, like, and trust you. When they move from the bonding, they go into the C, which is conversion. So conversion is where you're now encouraging and enticing and attracting people to go from the bonding phase into becoming a paid client. So now they are part of that next challenge that you're going to be doing or your coaching program or they bought your book or something, but they're now a client. And so they have been converted from being lurkers into becoming leads and clients, right? You've landed these clients now because they're in the conversion or C phase. There's going to be a different type of content that you're sharing with people at that level because that's where you're giving more of your advanced stuff, right? In the bonding phase, you're probably giving a touch of advanced stuff too, but it's still going to be a little different, right? I'm not giving away the whole course in a live stream. Whereas I am going to
Exactly.
do that because people paid for it in the conversion phase. So that's different levels of content. Your bonding phase might be a free webinar, right?
Mhm.
So then after they've converted and they have become clients, Your job is to delight them so much, to make them feel so great and so affirmed about being in your space, that now that delight has changed them into raving fans who are giving testimonies and sharing with other people who you are, and driving people because they have an affiliate, link with you. They are becoming your biggest fans and cheerleaders, and they are driving new people into the awareness and bonding phase. So it just is a cycle. And at each of those levels, you're giving people a different type of content. And some of it may bleed over into, different phases. Like again, the webinar could be a paid webinar. Um, and it could be leading people into a 90-day coaching program. And then that 90-day coaching program, those people could be, receiving bonus content from you, and rewards because they're on your leaderboard, right? And so now the more people that they send to other programs for you, they get rewarded even more, and they get things like Florence's Cup, right?
Thank
So
you.
the A, B, C, D, that's it. It really is just, it was an easier way for me to remember the sales process.
That is actually genius. Y'all, take some notes. And let me just say this while I'm seeing take notes. You see that website right there, streamlikeaboss.tv? You need to go there. You need to go there. You need to not just let it bypass and say, oh, isn't that cute? No, it's not cute. We are in a season. We literally are in a season where if you are not thinking of where we are right now, you need to be. Every single person under the sound of our voice, you need to be thinking about where we are in the season we're in. It is not where we were 6 months ago. Enough said.
Yeah.
Take it seriously. Don't say, oh, it'll be fine. No, it will not be fine. Nobody
Mm.
controls your life but you. Nobody is responsible for your life but you. I am taking the time to bring you people who know more than me, who've been doing this work longer than me, who have a different experience than me. Please, oh, please, oh, please, take advantage of it. I'm not charging you to do that. I'm just making it available for you. Sorry, Tanya. They're used
It's
to me
okay.
doing this. They're used to me doing
Yeah.
this. So we got questions. We got questions. We got
Okay.
questions. So here goes Tora again. She coming down your street. With being an introvert, did you overcome and find the focus to show up consistently? Basically, I think she's how did you overcome and find the
Hmm.
focus to show up consistently and boldly to help so many people? How did you find that
Yeah.
focus?
So here's the thing about being an introvert. So introvert doesn't mean shy. For those of us, for all of us who are introverts, we know it's not that we're shy. It's just that we process information differently, right? And so for me, here's what I'll say that was different for me, even outside, like in the external world, not the digital world, but in the networking events and organizations and things that a lot of people often did. I used to try to do things the way that they did them. And this translated over into my digital space as well. So I'll talk about that in a second. But what I would do is I would go to these networking events early on, and I'd try to pretend to be an extrovert. And it never worked. It was not authentic. It didn't feel good. And I hated walking away from those events with 1,000 business cards of people that I knew I would never ever talk to because we didn't make a connection. It wasn't my style of communicating. What I ended up learning to do is to go into those events instead of trying to be like other people, but recognizing the power and the strength in being an introvert was that I do process differently. And so what I realized is that I could go into those rooms and I would be satisfied coming out with one or two deeper conversations Whereas extroverts tend to go broad, introverts go deep. And so I recognize an opportunity to let me just identify 1 to 2 people in this space. I'll talk to them and I'm going to listen. I'm going to ask a lot of questions and listen and be very curious on purpose, like to understand what they're really saying and to know more about them. And for those who I clicked with in that way, those were the business contacts that I took away and made, strong relationships with. So when I translated this into the digital space with video, what I recognized very quickly is that I was not like other people who would get on and they'd be like, hey, I'm just bouncing off the walls, right? That wasn't my style. My style was different. The way that I come off on camera is very chill. You can probably get that from us talking right now. It's conversational. And I had to identify that it's not about me talking to tens of thousands of people. It's how can I talk to one person and really get the message across for them? How can I make an impact with the one and go deep and stop worrying about going broad and, hey, can I go viral and get 10,000? No. So it was a different focus that helped me to be more successful and to be more consistent because I felt better about showing up in a way that was authentic for me.
Ooh, authentic for you, just who you are and the way you are. That's powerful,
Yeah.
very
Yeah. We
powerful.
don't have to
But that
be other
comes from
people.
you. You have to know who you are,
Yeah.
not who people
Yeah.
say you are, but who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it took me a while to realize I don't like I knew it, but I fought it. I don't like crowds. I don't like going anywhere where there are large crowds of people. I'm not claustrophobic. I'm not shy. I'm not a hermit. I just don't like crowds of people. I don't enjoy anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do that now.
And it's okay.
Other people, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's
You
perfectly
get to
fine.
choose.
I get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So
And the
that's
world
very
needs
powerful.
all of us. It needs
Mhm.
you, it needs me, it needs Torah, it needs all the people who are here watching plus some. And
Plus
so
some.
I don't feel like I ever have to bend my will and who I am to someone else, to be someone else. I do feel that there are opportunities and you have to look for ways where you might be blocking your own blessing.
Mhm.
So if you're doing that because you are procrastinating and not showing up, if you don't show up in the crowd because you really don't love it, but now you're missing on an opportunity because you could have been in front of people where you made an impact and you said what needed to be said and then you got off the stage and went home. If you didn't do that because you just felt like, well, that's just not something I do, you could be blocking the communication and the blessing that
And
you
that's
and the other
different.
person would have received. And that's a
Yeah.
whole different ballgame.
That's a whole different ball game. I can come,
Yep.
I can deliver content and go home, but if you want me to
Yeah.
stay there and be in the middle of that crowd, yeah, no, that's not happening. And I'm okay
I'm
with
out.
that. I'm
Me
out.
too.
I'm out. And it's weird because I'll tell you when I realized it. When I realized that I was in a crowd and I could literally feel my energy being pulled out of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I literally could feel it being pulled out of me. I was like, this is and I go and I'm wiped out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
no good for
That goes
anybody.
back to the boundaries thing, right?
And that's when it's like, okay, there are some boundaries here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you have to say. We got a couple other questions. So these are good questions. Tora's going to be asking all these questions, but this one is not from Tora. This one is from Yolanda B. She says, when juggling multiple facets of life, family, work, ministry, etc., how do you take time for self to
Mm-hmm.
prevent burnout? The
Yeah.
B word,
This is
burn out.
it's not easy. It has, I'm just being honest. It has not been easy because I feel compelled to do what I promise I'm going to do. But this is where I fixed that issue. Um, I am compelled now to make sure I schedule the time on my calendar to be by myself. I'm compelled to schedule the time to have a massage, to have my nails done, to go to a movie by myself. But I put it on the calendar so that, and I also, we're talking about throughout the week and you have, a schedule with clients and all that stuff, I never have a wide open calendar. I just don't do that. It is going to be blocked based on the times that I know I'm at my best and my highest energy level. That's when I'll meet with people. Um, if I want to be by myself and I see that the whole schedule, because it's color coded for me, the schedule is really full and full of color, then I'm going to go in there and find myself a gap and like block that off for me. I also, when I wake up in the morning, I'm very early. I'm an early bird. So usually like 4, 5 in the morning. And that first block of time for the day is always my time. I don't schedule people before my time is done. So I think it goes to the boundary thing. It's about making sure that you do whatever you need to do to get that peace, even if it means scheduling it.
Your
And I don't feel
calendar,
guilty about it.
your calendar is your friend.
Hmm.
Your calendar is your friend. You know, this community is accustomed to me seeing we all have 1,440 minutes a day. None of us have any more or any less if we make it 24 hours.
Yeah.
The difference is how we use it and what those obligations are. And in this multi role world we walk through, then sometimes you have to let some things go.
Hmm.
You have to decide what you're not going to do. And I am a huge proponent. And Frank, if you say something, I'm going to throw something at you. Take time for you. And he gets on me because sometimes I forget to take time for me.
Yeah.
But take time for whatever that looks like. Whether it's reading a book, taking a long bath, getting your nails done, getting whatever it happens, going for a walk, going for a run,
Hmm.
singing, off key, whatever it looks like
Walking the dog.
for you, walking the dog, but taking that time for you where you're not giving to somebody else, you're not answering somebody else's need, you're not doing something for a client, for a spouse, for a child, for a parent, for whoever. It's just you. And it doesn't need to be days. It can be a
Hmm.
couple of hours. Maybe enough for you. So
That's
thank you
right.
for reminding us to set those boundaries and have that space for ourselves. So our next question is from Tora, and I think we actually kind of answered this, but I'm going to put it up here anyway. Being an introvert, how do you overcome and find focus to show up consistently? And I thought we answered this
Hmm. Yeah.
with so many people. So I thought, let me double check and see if I have any other questions from anyone else that we haven't answered. Uh, yeah, it was the same question twice. So there we go. Uh, and here she comes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is there you could be here for a minute. Is there a specific software or system you use to plan your streams and calendar as well?
Yeah.
This-
Yeah.
I'm laughing because like you all really need to hear this one. So I'm gonna be quiet.
What? What did I say before?
You
Florence, I'm
you
scared.
you you got tools you
I got
use and
tools.
ways you do things that be showing up places.
I do. I do. Yeah. So the specific software, I'll tell you this thing. What I use primarily for scheduling my streams and to make sure that I have everything planned out. Um, if I have guests, then I use a system called Traft, Trafft. And Traft basically is the primary system for any type of client scheduling, um, coffee chats that I might do, virtual coffee chats, my guests that are going to be on my show. Everybody goes through the Traft system because it connects, it syncs with my Google Calendar. And I tell it, these are the blocks of time that I want you to reserve for me, depending on the type of meeting that it's going to be or the type of event, right? If it's a podcast or something like that. But it also allows me, there's other connecting points, as Florence probably was thinking. Yep, I won't get into all of those, but I will say that I do also have a CRM, so a customer relationship management tool. And the one I use today is called Go High Level. And so Go High Level, basically anybody who has any type of contact with me, whether it be through the Traft system or otherwise, is going to be um, tagged inside of my customer relationship system, so my CRM. So that way I can keep track of people that I need to follow up with. I can keep track of people who have purchased from me. All of the different things are managed through that system. Now, when it comes to scheduling, just like my day to day everything, Google Calendar still, and that's why everything else connects with Google Calendar to see when I am actually available and to avoid any type of duplication of meetings. Right? um, but yeah, I'm huge on calendaring systems and scheduling tools. That's a big thing for me.
Online booking. Whew, it saves you
Yeah.
so much headache. You
I
don't
don't
have to be going,
allow
yeah.
Yeah, I don't allow for the random, the people, and it's very rare if I do, but most of the time, if people reach out and say, "Hey, I want to connect" or whatever, I'm going to say, "Okay, let's get on the calendar. And if you don't want to send me yours, I'll send you mine." Like, but I need a way to make sure that I'm managing all the things. And so when we talked about the boundaries and we talked about, creating those spaces where we can breathe, that's the best way to do it. And you can do it in a way, because I've seen people that have argued against that and that don't like calendars. And I never have understood that, because I'm like, that's what keeps us sane. That's what keeps us both dedicated to each other. And what I'll say to people who I get a feeling that they're like, well, I didn't want to have to set up a meeting, I'll say, look, I want to make sure that we have dedicated space and time to connect so that my focus is totally on you and you on me, so that they understand that's what it's about. It's not about, I'm just trying to blow you off. It is about, I want to create a space where we really are going to be devoted to the conversation. And if we don't do that, I'm going to be distracted by the other 500 things that need to get done. So, anyway,
Right, the other 500, the dog, the the house, the
yeah,
thing that you left, right,
yeah.
exactly. It am I telling on myself? I think I'm telling on myself.
Nah, I think you're good.
But, so if you all have more questions, because we've been at this just about an hour, I am not going to wear out. I will remind those of you who have registered, the lounge is open. You have the link. Come on in so you get a chance to ask a question. And Tanya, I'm going to give you a break for a minute so you can get a sip of water because I have been working you today. So I'm going to just chat with folks for a second while you get a sip and take a break. Uh, Come on into the lounge so that you can ask the questions that are not public and get a real answer. I just want to remind you that um, the questions are not recorded. The lounge session is not recorded, so you can ask the question that you really truly want to have answered and get an unfiltered answer that you can apply today, immediately in your life, whether it's your ministry, if it's your job, or whatever that you're working through, your home, your family. It's for you, and I am appreciative not only of you being here and of you watching, but I'm appreciative of Tanya for taking time out of her life to give to us. It's time that she can't get back. You all hear me say those minutes, you can make more money, you can get more clothes, you can get a whole bunch of things. You cannot get the time back. So this is precious time, and I definitely appreciate it. And I want you all to get what you need from it. So I'm going to bring her back with us and let her share a
Uh-oh. I can't hear you.
You muted. You muted.
Mute Nation. Bring her back to let her, Tanya, I don't want to wear on you. Uh, if there are no other questions that come through publicly, someone has a question, come on into the lounge and ask your question privately. But have you share with us whatever you believe based on the questions you've received tonight and our interaction, what you will encourage us to do next, if you will, a charge, any inspiration that you have, and definitely how people can connect with you to get to the next level and where they're going in these businesses that they're out here running. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate the time that you've given us because it's part of your life that you can't get back. And that's
Oh,
precious to me.
this is a part of my life that I love to be able to give. So I'm appreciative of being able to share your virtual stage. Thank you for inviting me to be here because you didn't have to do it. And I recognize that too, Florence. So thank you for that. Thank you for also putting on the series in the first place, because I think that it is so important that we celebrate. And what better way than to do so during Black History Month? It will always be Black History Month in my world. Every day is Black History, actually, but we're going to continue this thing. Here's what I would share in terms of a quote. There's a quote that sticks with me. And again, I realize I'm a pretty structured and disciplined person, and not everybody is, but I think that you can benefit from this. It is that success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. But failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. And Jim Rohn shared that quote, and I just don't forget that it's easy for us to create a habit out of things that really aren't doing us any good, and they're not good for the people who are in our sphere of influence. When we create those type of habits, we have an opportunity to choose to do the few simple disciplines every day. So I guess I would ask for each of you to think about, what is the discipline that I can adopt right now and begin to do every day that will help me to be a better person, that will help me to impact people around me in a much more positive way? What needs to go in my front seat? If you continue to ask yourself that on the daily, you can make adjustments because you get to choose. So I think I would leave you with that. In terms of reaching out and staying connected, because my primary business these days, for the last several years now, has been in video marketing. If you're interested and you're thinking, hey, I want to do something more with video, then I'm your person. Especially if you're thinking about doing live streaming. And I have a whole bunch of reasons why I think live streaming is much more effective than simple on camera or pre-recorded video. But we're doing a series of challenges. So if you go to streamlikeaboss.tv, just hit the subscribe button or take the quiz that's on the front page, and you will be on my list, because within the next week, we're going to be advertising about a class called Live Stream Multiplier Method And that is my series on, or my challenge on how to actually take a single video and convert that into multiple forms of content that are constantly keeping you visible 24/7, even when you're at the nail shop. So that's it. Streamlikeaboss.tv. And for all my links, you can go to streamlikeaboss.tv/links, and it will take you to whatever social platform you prefer to hang out. And that's it.
Okay, gang, we are ending this, and I will see you in the lounge if you choose to come in. Have a good evening, everybody.